Hi everyone, it's Donna here from Succeed with Dyslexia. And this conversation is something that we feel very passionate about here at Succeed. It's an issue that when we've attempted to research around this topic, it's been really tough for us to find the information. So it's great that we've linked in with two professionals who've got lots of advice and wisdom to share around this issue of dyslexia and homelessness. And as I said, we are really passionate about this issue. So I'm going to introduce them and then I really want to start chatting because this is something that we need to find out more about and really share expertise and a spotlight, I guess, on this serious issue. So I'm joined by Kelly McLoughlin. Hi, Kelly. And you are the Volunteer and Programmes Manager at a charity called Thames Reach. And the remit at Thames Reach is to help those who are homeless or vulnerable to find decent homes and have fulfilling lives, which is a fantastic remit. So thank you to you and the team for the work that you do. And it's specifically in the London area of the UK, isn't it? So Kelly, thank you so much for your time. And I hope you agree with us. This is going to be a really important conversation to share with everyone. And then we're also joined by our other guest, which is Dr. Anne Margaret Smith. Hi, Anne Margaret. And you are the owner and director of ELT Well. You are a dyslexia specialist and assessor. You've got a rich heritage of working with those who speak English as an additional language, so our multilingual community here in the UK, but I think internationally as well, Anne Margaret, isn't it? And if that doesn't keep you busy enough, you are also training to be a speech and language specialist as well. But it is all linked, isn't it? Communication and literacy and so on. And we might touch around some of those issues today, if that's okay, during our chat. So as I said, I'm eager to start talking really because it is an issue that needs a lot more awareness around. And it's this issue that we're aware that for some individuals, having dyslexia, often unidentified, can be a barrier to finding a home. And as Kelly's remit as at the Thames Reach charity talks about having those fulfilling lives and getting a secure home and so on. But we also know, don't we, that this is a very multi-layered issue here. So through our chat today, you may hear us talk about individuals with dyslexia, neurodiverse individuals, those with low literacy levels, but may not actually have dyslexia. And then another layer to that are those who speak English as an additional language. Now, some of that is connected, some of it is layered, if I can put it like that, Anne Margaret, but are slightly different issues, but relate in some way. Help me out here, because you're way more expert on this than I am.
Well, I mean, it is very complex, and some people's lives are more complex than others. Neurodiversity is a big issue and a very broad term, which would include dyslexia, but also ADHD, autism, and developmental language disorder. These are all things which could make it more difficult to fit into the system, to understand the rules, to read the forms that you get sent, to fill them out correctly. And then apart from neurodiverse...
Differences. We talk a lot about differences, don't we?
So apart from the cognitive differences, there are also people who are using English as an additional language.
Yes.
They also face challenges in understanding our systems and complying with the systems quite often. As we know, our systems are extremely bureaucratic, and if you don't make your meeting, with universal credit people, you will lose your benefits. And what do you do then? Often a lot of people end up on the street just through misunderstanding or just not being able to get to the meeting. So, if you're neurodiverse and or speaking English as an additional language, there are so many barriers to overcome.
Yeah, thank you, Anne Margaret. You've done a great job there at trying to put it in a nutshell, what we're looking at here. And this is why it's quite an important conversation because it's very nuanced in terms of what we're looking at. But I think despite that nuance, the theme is universal here. Now, obviously, we are all based in the UK, but nevertheless, these issues resonate across the world, and it's the same patterns around systems being very difficult to navigate through, and people finding it really tough to find a home, get their lives back on track, part of which is around dyslexia, for example, as you say, and Margaret, neurodiverse differences. Now, I know that both of you were involved in this fantastic conference by Literacy 100, where they were talking about addressing these issues around homelessness and literacy. And as we say, we know that some of those individuals who've got literacy challenges, it will be because they have dyslexia, unidentified, or possibly it has been identified. Kelly, if I may come to you then, why was it important for Thames Reach to be involved in a conference like that? And how did you kind of get involved? And what were the messages that you were hoping would be shared on the back of that event?
I think for us, I mean, the main message is that, homelessness and socially excluded people, they have to cope with so many obstacles that hold them back, and sometimes can really take from people's confidence. And for many people supported by us, poor literacy is a real barrier to that independent and fulfilled life that we want our clients to obviously have. To help people tackle, tasks that can seem really overwhelming. And gaining those literacy skills, I think, for some of our clients feels like a mountain to climb. They're not sure how to get there. And we run a number of programs that obviously are sensitive to supporting those struggles and making a practical difference in people's lives. As was said, even just thinking about forms to fill in or reading a tenancy agreement. So some of the things we do at Thames Reach that we wanted to talk about at the conference is things like the one-to-one literacy. Also, we have reading support, reading buddies, and activities where people can get involved and publicly speak. We've had relationships with theatres in the past where we've got involved with performances. So we've had clients who ordinarily would never have dreamt that they could, publicly speak or read a simple script involved with really, quite big productions. So it's really important for us to be involved with Literacy 100 and also have conversations around kind of dyslexia and learning difficulties, because we know this is a huge barrier for people that are experiencing homelessness.
Yeah, and thank you for that fantastic work. I guess that comes down to when you're talking about putting on those types of productions and everything, that part of your remit that talks about fulfilling lives and helping people to see themselves in a different way and start, really being proud of some of their achievements and so on. Kelly, before I ask Anne Margaret about her involvement in the Literacy 100 event, for those of us who aren't in London, I'm in another part of the UK, and obviously we've got listeners all over the world. How much of a problem, this is just, I know it's a big question, it's just in a nutshell really, how much of a problem do you guys feel homelessness is in a big city like London these days?
I mean, it is a huge issue, and it's a very complex issue. And what we need to understand is that at every single layer of homelessness, there needs to be support for people. So there needs to be support for the prevention of homelessness, so people don't end up on the street. There needs to be support for people who are already on the street, and then there needs to be in accommodation support, because some people will need that support in order to maintain that accommodation. So, at Thames Reach, we do all that, and we understand that it is a really complex issue, and we need to have services that meet the different kind of layers of those complex needs.
Yeah, and that pattern of great practice is universal, isn't it? Whether you're in London or another big city, wherever in the world, what you guys are doing sounds like a great strategy to try and address this huge problem that we all face. So Anne Margaret, to come to you then about the question I asked Kelly, from Thames Reach. That's a great overview Kelly's give about why they felt passionate about being involved in that conference. From your angle then, with your expertise, why was it important for you to be involved, and what were some of the messages that you were sharing with the delegates and on social media and so on?
So I contributed a session for the ESOL tutors. Literacy 100 does have quite a large group of teachers involved with teaching English as an additional language. And it's the overlap between literacy and English language, which is where I've been working for quite a few years. And so I just contributed a session suggesting some strategies and some teaching techniques which might be useful. So I really wanted to be involved because homelessness is such a huge issue. And I am very aware that I have a lot of privilege. I am actually quite unlikely to become homeless, but there are many people who don't have the same level of privilege. They don't have the same safety nets that I have. And it only takes the breakdown in a relationship or the loss of a job, and people can end up on the street. So this is something that I really feel very passionate about. And I was absolutely delighted to have been asked to contribute to talk about really two of my very favourite subjects.
Yes.
So yeah, I was very honoured to have been part of that. Yeah.
And that's great to hear. And, you know, they were lucky to have you because I know how great an expert you are in that field. And this is really powerful when you guys join together to have these important conversations and share your expertise in that way. And, you know, again, Succeed, that's what we wanted to try and do, to bring you together, because we want to showcase that and put links to, you know, the different charities and to Literacy 100 and so on. So going a little broader then, and back to kind of the issues around these links between homelessness and often unidentified neurodiverse differences. Kelly, if I may come to you again then, in your opinion and based on your expertise, do you feel that there is a connection, be it barriers and so on, to people trying to, as we said earlier, fill out a form, navigate through the system, if you feel that your clients have got these unidentified neurodiverse differences, one of which, of course, potentially is dyslexia?
Yeah, I think, you know, the unidentified part goes back to, you know, I've worked in homelessness for 10 years, and I've worked in frontline services that are trying to deal with real emergency issues for our clients. That might mean finding someone temporary accommodation. It might mean getting them stabilised with their mental health or drug and alcohol issues. And sort of not even secondary, but kind of much lower down the line would be looking at things like reading and writing level, for example, because as staff, as sort of frontline workers, we're often under a lot of pressure to move people into accommodation or to end people's rough sleeping as quickly as possible, which, you know, our message is that rough sleeping is dangerous, and obviously we want to work with people as quickly as possible. And often as staff, we are filling in forms for clients, you know, to make sure that they're done correctly, they're done quickly, we can get things processed and moving on. So I think part of that unidentified element is if charities don't have the kind of capacity to really dig deep and look at, you know, a client's reading and writing level, for example. Obviously, we're really lucky that we have such great links with people who can support us with kind of basic skills literacy, and we have an employment and skills department within our charity. So, but for some of our organisations, you know, they won't have that, and perhaps the unidentifiedness comes from staff saying, "I'll do the form, I'll fill it in for you." You know, so I think that's really important to kind of recognise that. That there are pressures that charities face that might mean that those issues, they don't get really looked into. So yeah, I think that's really important to know, the sort of pressures that, you know, as a busy London charity you might face working with people who are rough sleeping.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly, because it gives us lots to think about there. And I guess I'm thinking when I listen to you talk, the added pressure then. It's on professionals like you guys. Like you say, you're trying to get somebody in a safe space, trying to help them through. You probably figure out at some point, yes, there's literacy issues there. As we say, that may be dyslexia. At that point, it's not, kind of doesn't matter, because it's about getting them through and getting them safe and where they need to be. And then, but if there isn't a great deal of support behind you guys, then some of that strain falls on you, doesn't it? To try and think, okay, well, why can't this person fill out the form? And that's going to be a barrier now to them getting on and into the next steps of where they want to be. So it's really interesting. As I say, this is why we wanted to have these chats, because it gives us a lot to think about what is the provision, what needs to be in place, what are we expecting of professionals like you, Kelly, which is above and beyond really the remit of what you're there to do as a frontline service in that way. And Margaret, I know that you're an expert in dyslexia. And when you hear Kelly say about that type of a scenario, what does it make you think about the impact that somebody, coming to Kelly for help, can't navigate through at that moment? Kelly and the team are filling out forms and so on, but there's a deeper journey there, and maybe it's going to be a barrier to when that person is trying to turn their life around.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Having worked as a dyslexia support tutor in universities, I recognise that situation where there's something urgent that needs to be done. And as a teacher, I would want to support that person to learn how to do it. But there's also a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety because it needs to be done today. So in the end, you do just help them and do it. And you get that short-term situation resolved. But in the longer term, as a teacher, I recognise that we would really want to work with that person and help them to develop those skills so that they can be independent and autonomous in the future. But the problem is, and I think I'm right in saying that this is characteristic of people with cognitive differences, whether it's dyslexia, ADHD, whatever it is. And it could be also linked to substance abuse. It's not always easy to get those people to come back and to get them to attend. You might set up a meeting, you might set up a whole course of sessions with them, but to get them to attend, I mean, it's really, really challenging. And this is one of the things that we recognise in ESOL as well. Our ESOL learners, I mean, taking out any form of neurodiversity or homelessness or any other issues, actually ESOL learners have quite complicated lives. And it's quite hard to get ESOL learners to attend sessions. So when you've got the two things going on, if they're neurodivergent and using English as an additional language, or they're on the streets and life is very complicated for them, to get them to attend on a regular basis is really, really challenging.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Kelly,
you've had
how
that.
do you? Well, yeah, I was just you read my mind, Anne Margaret, because I've just wondered is this resonating with you, Kelly? I could see you nodding when Anne Margaret was talking. What do you guys do about that then, or attempt to do?
Yeah, we attempt to remove the barriers that there could be for our clients attending appointments. So, sometimes for our clients who maybe are living more complex lives, we will remove barriers like travel, how to get to the appointment, provide them with an oyster that's, topped up, etc. Because sometimes it can be the one thing that a client will say, well, I just didn't have the money on my oyster. So we remove that barrier for them. And also, being flexible, clients who are perhaps late or clients who miss an appointment, just making sure that we understand that at the moment they've got a lot going on, and they may not, if they are told to come in at 2 o'clock, they may not be in at 2, and we know that. So it's really important for us to be flexible with our clients. And I mean, we do also work with clients in the basic skills around ESOL, and completely agree. I mean, sometimes our clients, even just to take the time off to come and do something, even though there's long-term gain and we know that, but they are, hand to mouth. They are working cash in hand, or, they are really struggling to kind of support themselves and survive in London, and taking 2 hours out of their day to do something, it can be really, really challenging for clients who are for English as a second language, definitely.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. And I suppose on the back of that, Anne Margaret, if I can come back to you then, because that is your, a great expertise of yours. For that angle then, I know you spoke a little bit about that. How much of a barrier do you feel on the back of what Kelly's just said for our, community who speak English as an additional language, trying to navigate through life? How much of a barrier is it then in terms of how vulnerable they become for losing a home and, so on?
It's a huge issue. Here, I'm in Lancaster in the northwest of England, and we have quite good support systems, so that I know if one of my ESOL students has a problem with her universal credit or her housing benefit or anything, she knows where to go, and we can signpost them. But not every city is that well set up. And the universal credit system is very unforgiving. I mean, Kelly, I'm totally with you that we know we have to be a bit flexible. If a student doesn't turn up for me on the right day, for example, or at the right time, I understand that. But the universal credit people do not understand that. And that could be just the benefits just stop immediately, leaving them with, nothing. And it's very hard if your English is still in the beginning stages. It's very hard to understand why that's happened, or how to explain why you didn't make it to the meeting, or you didn't take the phone call, or whatever. So yeah, it is a really, really big issue, coupled with the sort of characteristics of neurodivergence, which might make people more forgetful, less organised. It's really tough for them.
These are, it's lots to take on board really, and to figure out how we navigate through. It's interesting to see that, you're both in agreement really for what the issues are. And I'm wondering if you may have similar thoughts now as I ask you, do you feel optimistic about the future and I know this is a huge question about what could help in this scenario. No pressure, guys. I'll start with you, Kelly. Do you feel optimistic for the way that we're trying to work with individuals? These types of conversations are happening more than ever now. Are we going to a better place? And if you could do share, or maybe we still are thinking about what the answer is. Could there be something that, government and so on could think about? Maybe we need to do more of something to try and resolve some of these ongoing journeys people are having.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's really difficult, and I think that it's such a complex issue that often homelessness is looked at as one thing, and it stands alone, and it doesn't. It's a bit like a cake mix, there's eggs and there's flour, and and those things are, reflect cuts to other services. So I was at a conference last year, and was very lucky to be able to talk to people who work in central government and say, we are, robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're putting lots of resources into homelessness, but when we cut other areas, then it's really like a sieve that, things are just falling through. So for me, it's about ensuring that all services for vulnerable adults are well funded and well supported. And, it's fantastic when you work in London. There's lots of good charities and good services. And, if I've got a client who I think, okay, I could probably refer them to this course, or they might be good for this charity. And that's fantastic, but not everywhere has that. And that's really where you see, sometimes even people going to rough sleep in major cities because there aren't those services in other areas of the UK. So it's really, for me, what I am optimistic, I think you have to be, but it's to ensure that, services and charities and departments are well funded across the UK, and that's really balanced. And also, sometimes even I'm navigating systems, and full disclosure, I was sort of asked to come and speak this because I am dyslexic.
Ah.
And so for me, you know, sometimes I'm navigating a system that I've had a lot of experience in because I've worked in the sector a long time, and I think, God, I'm struggling, you know, and so I can't even imagine, you know, how clients are trying to navigate through this. So it does need to be more more simple, and we also need to be more understanding of you know, our clients that are experiencing difficult times, especially when it comes to things like benefits. You know, the first sign we see when we think clients might be struggling is things like unopened letters. And actually, when you look at that really deeply, a lot of the time it's that they won't understand what the letter is actually asking them to do, or they just don't know where to start. So, you know, it's a really complex issue. I am optimistic because you have to be. And yeah, I look to the future and think, you know, we just need to keep making sure that great projects keep getting funded.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. And it's lots to think about there. I love what you say about it's layered and it's complex and nuanced, and therefore the response needs to be equally as intelligent and thought through and strategic and so on. And Margaret, same question to you then. Do you feel optimistic? And what are your thoughts about how we navigate through this?
I am naturally an optimist.
Good.
When I meet people like Kelly, I do feel that the people of this country are, you know, are good, and we do want what's best for everybody. I am, you know, heartened. And here in Lancaster, for example, there's a huge volunteer network. There are a lot of people trying to do what's right by the most vulnerable in our society. So from that point of view, yes, I am optimistic. I don't want to get too political, but I do feel that a lot of it is falling on the people, and the government needs to step up. We had austerity, Brexit, COVID. You know, all of these things have undermined our services. So it's kind of hard to be fully optimistic at the moment, but I do believe in the people of this country, and I do have hope that the future will be brighter.
Well, I thank you both. You know, I knew this would be a really important chat, and it has been. We hope that it inspires people to get involved in some way, whatever that may mean to you, even if it means just finding out more about this issue so that you're educated and you understand that other people's journeys for lots of these complex reasons that we're talking about. Or as Margaret said, you might want to volunteer. We hope we might inspire you to do that. I can see Kelly nodding vigorously. Yes, we would like that. So we hope we've inspired you, and we hope that through this conversation in some way it makes a little difference to the people who may listen for whatever reason. If this is an issue that's impacted on you, or something you're concerned about, you're not on your own. We will give links on the back of this conversation to organisations that are there to help. As Anne Margaret said, there are lots of fantastic people out there, of which Kelly is one, and so is Anne Margaret. So there are a lot of people out there who care deeply, so you aren't on your own. There is advice there to help. But thank you, my experts. You are wonder women, and we knew this was going to be an important chat. And thank you from us here at Succeed with Dyslexia for the work that you both do, and for your charity, of course. Kelly, it is brilliant, and keep fighting the good fight, if I can put it that way, because it makes a massive difference. Any closing words for, as we say goodbye to our listeners? Kelly, if I come to you, just a few words if you'd like to say to people as they say goodbye to us.
Yeah, I think two things really. One is that you're not alone. There is support out there. If you feel that this has really resonated with you. It took me a long time to get support for my dyslexia. You know, I was an adult, even though I knew relatively young I had difficulties with things like spelling and reading. So you're not alone. There's a lot of us out there. And also, if this resonates with you and you think, I'd love to get involved, you know, contact your local charity and, you know, what can I do? And it might be as simple as you will support someone with reading a book once a week, and it take an hour of your time. You know, it doesn't have to be particularly complex. And you know, if this resonates with you and want to get involved, you know, I really encourage you to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. And Margaret, closing words.
I would just like to say thank you to both of you for this conversation today, and particularly to Succeed with Dyslexia for helping us to raise this issue. And I do think that raising awareness of neurodiversity and all the issues that come with it is one of the most important things that we can do. So thanks for this opportunity to contribute to that.
Thanks, Anne Margaret. Yeah, it's good to talk, isn't it? It sounds like a cliche, but it's so true. And we are deeply passionate about this. So we're going to figure out, Succeed, how we can continue to help. And as I said to our listeners, please do, you know, reach out and try and help in whatever way you can. I love what you say, Kelly. It can be just something quite simple, which can make so much of a difference, isn't it? So thank you, guys. It's been a real eye-opener. And I'd done some research before this conversation, but I've learned a lot as well. So thank you. And that just leaves me to say to keep in touch with everybody, and let's keep talking, really, because this issue is huge and it deserves respect and care and sensitivity as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video as much as we did putting it together. Now we have some more amazing content for you. Please feel free to click this link here and learn more about Jamie Baker, who works as an educational therapist. Jamie talks about some of the successes and obstacles she's seen as she's worked with individuals who have learning differences. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.